The crowd moved as one, laughing, talking, alive, while she stood still on the edge of the square, unseen. Her name was Mira. She had learned not to expect kindness. The city had taught her that quickly. Cold stone benches, empty nights, and people who looked past her as if she were part of the pavement. Once she had dreams. Once she had parents. Then hunger, sickness, and debt erased everything. Tonight, the winter wind cut deeper than usual. A merchant shoved past her, spilling coins onto the ground. Mira dropped to her knees instantly, helping him gather them before they were trampled. "Careful, girl," he snapped. "Don't touch what isn't yours." "I was only helping," she said softly, placing the coins back into his trembling hands. He scoffed and walked away. Behind her, laughter rose. "Nobility arriving," someone whispered. The square suddenly went silent. Mira felt it before she saw it, the shift in the air, the pressure of something ancient and powerful. Horses black as midnight entered the square, their riders cloaked in dark silver-threaded fabric. At their center rode a man whose presence bent attention toward him like gravity. Tall, pale, white hair flowing freely down his back. His eyes, deep crimson, scanned the crowd without interest, until they found her. Mira froze. The Vampire King dismounted. Gasps echoed. People bowed. Some crossed themselves. He walked straight past nobles, guards, and clergy, straight toward the homeless girl kneeling in the snow. Myra's heart pounded. "I'm sorry," she whispered, lowering her head. "I'll move." "Stay," he said calmly. His voice was quiet, but it carried absolute authority. He knelt before her. Every breath in the square stopped. "Why did you help the merchant?" he asked. She swallowed. "Because he dropped everything, and no one else cared." The Vampire King studied her like a rare artifact. Not her clothes. Not her dirt-stained hands. Her eyes. "Stand," he said. She obeyed, shaking. "You will come with me," he declared. A noblewoman stepped forward. "My lord, she is nothing. A beggar." The Vampire King turned slowly. "She is human," he said coldly. "And that alone makes her worthy of dignity." He extended his hand to Mira. "For centuries," he continued, voice echoing across the square, "my kind has ruled through fear. Tonight I choose something different." Mira stared at his hand, stunned. All eyes turned toward her. The girl no one had ever chosen. The city did not breathe again until the Vampire King turned away. Mira walked beside him through the frozen square, her heart pounding so loudly she was certain everyone could hear it. She felt hundreds of eyes burning into her back, some filled with disbelief, others with envy, and many with fear. She had spent her life being ignored. Now she was being watched. The black carriage waited at the edge of the square, its surface polished like a mirror that reflected nothing. Guards opened the door and stepped back without a word. Mira hesitated. "I don't belong in a place like this," she whispered. The Vampire King paused, looking down at her. Up close, his beauty was unsettling, perfect and cold, like something carved from moonlight. Yet his expression held no cruelty. "Belonging," he said quietly, "is not decided by wealth or blood. It is decided by character." She swallowed and stepped inside. As the carriage moved, Mira hugged her arms tightly, afraid that at any moment she would be thrown back into the street and told it had all been a cruel joke. But the ride stretched on, smooth and silent, the city slowly giving way to dark forests and towering stone walls. When the gates of the mansion opened, Myra's breath caught. The estate rose from the mist like a legend, ancient towers, iron balconies, and windows glowing faintly with candlelight. The air felt heavier here, charged with something old and watchful. "This is my home," the king said. She stepped out, trembling. "Why me?" He did not answer immediately. Inside, servants lined the hall, bowing low. Some looked at her with curiosity. Others with open disdain. She felt their judgment instantly. A pale woman with silver eyes approached and bowed deeply. "Welcome, my king." Then her gaze shifted to Mira. "And who," the woman asked carefully, "is the human?" The king's voice sharpened. "She is my guest." The woman inclined her head, though surprise flickered across her face. "I am Saren, steward of this house." Mira nodded awkwardly. "I won't be any trouble." The king turned to her. "You will never have to apologize for existing in my presence." The word struck something deep inside her. That night, Mira was given a room larger than any space she had ever imagined. Warm water, clean clothes, and food laid carefully on a table as if she mattered. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, clean, wrapped in soft fabric, still the same girl beneath it all. Later, the king came to the balcony where she stood watching the moon. My name is Valor, he said. You deserve to know it. Thank you, my lord, she replied. You don't need to call me that when we are alone. Silence stretched between them. They will not accept you easily, Valor admitted. Many believe kindness is weakness. I'm used to that, Mira said softly. Valor looked at her, then truly looked at her. I am not. From the shadows above, unseen eyes watched. And far away, ancient forces stirred, because the vampire king had chosen a human girl, and the night itself had begun to remember something it had long forgotten. Mira learned quickly that protection did not mean peace. By morning, the mansion was alive with whispers. She felt them everywhere, in the corridors, the dining hall, even the gardens where frost-tipped roses bloomed unnaturally under the moon's fading light. A human. A weakness. A mistake. She kept her head down as she always had, helping where she could. When a servant dropped a heavy tray, Mira rushed forward without thinking. When another servant was scolded harshly by a noble vampire, Mira spoke softly in her defense. Please, she said, voice steady despite her fear. It was an accident. The noble turned on her, eyes flashing crimson. Do not speak unless you are commanded, human. The temperature dropped. Valor appeared beside her instantly. That is enough, he said calmly. The noble bowed, trembling. Forgive me, my king. Valor did not raise his voice. He did not need to. You will learn, he said, that cruelty is not authority. Mira whispered later, you shouldn't defend me like that. Valor looked at her. I will always defend what is right. That same night, the Vampire Council convened. Mira did not attend, but she felt it. The mansion's stones hummed, as if aware of conflict older than memory. She must leave, an elder snarled. She is mortal. Fragile. She will be used against you. Valor stood unmoving before them. She stays. An elder leaned forward, eyes glowing. Then she must be tested. The words echoed through the chamber like a sentence. The trial of worth. At dawn, Mira was summoned to the great hall. 12 elders watched her from their elevated seats. Valor stood behind her, not beside her. This trial is not about strength, the eldest elder said. It is about truth. A restrained vampire was dragged forward, a young one barely more than a boy. His eyes burned with uncontrolled hunger. He cannot stop himself, the elder announced. He will kill. Mira's breath caught. Then help him. Laughter rippled through the hall. You are asked to stand before him, the elder said. If you survive, you may remain. Valor stepped forward. This is madness. Or justice, the elder replied. Mira turned to Valor. If I don't try, they'll never stop. She stepped forward. The boy lunged. Pain flared as his fangs pierced her skin, but instead of terror, something warm surged through her blood. A strange calm filled the hall. The boy froze. His breathing slowed. The hunger drained from his eyes, replaced by confusion, then relief. The chains shattered. The elders stood. What is this? One whispered. Valor stared at Mira, shock etched across his face. The ancient gift, the eldest breathed. The blood-bearer. Mira collapsed. Valor caught her. The hall fell silent. For the first time in centuries, the council looked at a human not with superiority, but with fear and respect. Mira did not wake immediately. She drifted in a place between warmth and darkness, aware only of a steady presence holding her together when her strength failed. When her eyes finally opened, candlelight blurred above her, and the familiar scent of frost and night surrounded her. Valor was beside her bed. He was not seated like a king. He was kneeling. You frightened them, he said quietly. You frightened me. Mira tried to sit up, pain flashing through her arm. The boy, did he live? He is alive, Valor replied. For the first time since his turning, he is at peace. Relief softened her expression. Then it was worth it. Valor's jaw tightened. You should never have been placed in that position. They wanted proof, she said gently. I gave it. He looked at her then, and centuries of restraint cracked. You are not proof. You are not a symbol. You are not a tool. His voice lowered. You are a life. That night the mansion changed. Guards doubled. Wards were reforged. The council elders retreated into silence, but not submission. Mira could feel the tension tightening like a drawn blade. She was no longer merely unwanted. She was dangerous. From the shadows, resentment grew. A servant she barely noticed, a quiet man who never met her eyes, carried messages through the lower halls. Whispers reached the exiled clans beyond the mountains. The word spread quickly. The king has a weakness. The attack came just before dawn. Mira was walking the eastern corridor when the air split with a scream. The walls shuddered as ancient seals broke. Dark figures poured through the halls, rogue vampires, their eyes feral, their hunger unrestrained. Mira. Valor reached her instantly, pulling her behind him as steel and shadow clashed. He moved like a storm, precise, devastating, controlled. But there were too many. A blade struck from behind. Mira felt the impact before she understood it. Pain bloomed in her side as she stumbled forward, blood staining the stone. Valor turned. Time stopped. The world seemed to bend around him as his composure shattered. The attacker was reduced to ash in a single breath, but Valor barely noticed. He caught Mira as she fell. "No," he whispered. "Stay with me." Her breathing was shallow. "I didn't want to be the reason." "You are not the reason," he said fiercely. "You are the choice." Her vision dimmed. "I trust you." That was when Valor broke the oldest law of his kind. He cut his own palm and pressed it to her lips. "Drink," he commanded, not as a king, but as someone refusing to lose what the night had given him. Power surged. The mansion roared back to life. The wards ignited. The attackers fled in terror as the ancient stones recognized their queenbound. Mira gasped as warmth flooded her veins, not hunger, not darkness, but strength. When the council arrived, they found Valor holding her, blood on both their hands. "You violated sacred law," an elder hissed. Valor rose slowly, eyes glowing with restrained fury. "Then your laws are flawed." He faced them all. "She is under my protection, not as my subject, not as my weakness, but as my equal." Myra's fingers tightened in his coat. The Vampire King had chosen. And the night had answered. Mira healed, but the night never forgot what she had become. The wound closed without a scar, yet something deeper had awakened. She could feel the mansion now, the rhythm of its walls, the ancient wards breathing like a living thing. When she walked the halls, shadows did not flee from her. They bowed. The council gathered at dusk, summoned not by command but by inevitability. The great hall filled with elders who once demanded Myra's removal. Now they watched her with caution and awe. "The records have been opened," the eldest elder announced. "What you carry is not accident nor chance." Mira stood beside Valor, hands folded, steady despite the weight of attention. "I never asked for power." "That," the elder said quietly, "is why it answered you." He raised an ancient tablet etched with symbols older than their kingdom. "The blood-bearer appears only when balance is required. One who can calm hunger, heal corrupted blood, and unite knight and mortal without tyranny." A murmur spread. "She is not meant to serve the throne," another elder admitted. "She is meant to stand beside it." The elders knelt. All of them. Valor did not move, until Mira turned to him, eyes wide with disbelief. "I don't want them to kneel." A faint smile touched his lips. "Then they will learn to stand differently." Justice came swiftly but not cruelly. The traitor who opened the wards was stripped of power and exiled beyond the mountains, bound by law never to return. The rogue clans were disbanded, their leaders given a choice: submit to balance or fade into legend. For the first time in centuries, the night chose mercy. Later, beneath a silvered moon in the frost-blooming gardens, Mira finally asked the question she had carried since the square. "Why me?" Valor faced her, not as a king but as a man who had lived too long without hope. "Because when the world showed you cruelty, you answered with kindness. And because you never asked to be seen, yet you saw everyone." He knelt. "Not to command. Not to claim. To choose," he said softly. "Not a crown. Not eternity. Just a future, together." Tears slipped down Myra's cheeks. "I don't need a throne." He rose, resting his forehead against hers. "Nor do I need a crown to protect what I love." They did not rush the bond. There was no forced transformation, no claim of ownership. Only trust, built day by day, shared meals, shared silence, shared choices. When dawn touched the horizon, the city awoke to a quieter world. And far from the mansion gates, a homeless girl was offered shelter instead of scorn, because power had finally learned compassion. Final ending. Never judge the forgotten, because sometimes they are the ones chosen to lead us all.